Hi, guys. Today I want to share with you my top 5 tips for future parrot or bird owners. Now, if you do already have a parrot or a bird, this video might still be for you, especially if you kind of purchase that bird impulsively and now you're doing your research and you're wondering what the heck to do with that bird. I don't have any birds with me today because I didn't want to get distracted, but I would like to know your opinion. Do you prefer when I have my birds with me, or at least one bird with me, even though I'm all over the place and I'm distracted? Or do you prefer like this, no birds, no distraction, and just go straight to the point? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, now let's continue. So my first tip is do your research first before getting the bird. Now, if you already have that bird, it's too late. But if you don't, do your research first. This is where you need to start. So what type of parrot bird do you want? The size. Do you want a cuddly bird? What type of behavior are you looking for a bird? The level of noise of that bird. Do you live in a big house? Do you live in an apartment? You have to think about all these things. What is it like to live with a bird? So it's not always like social media, especially TikTok, Instagram, and all these things, those social media where you see really short clips. This is not real life. They're just showing you what's cute. So do research on the internet. There's so much information. YouTube is a really good one. If you're here, well, this is a great start. I think you're already looking into it. But look at creators or content that they share their life with birds or parrots. What does it look like? Are you going to be able to have that kind of life? It's going to be very different if you have a little budgie or if you have a big macaw, right? The life is going to be different. This is what you want to look at. This is where you want to focus your research to know what bird you should get. Tip number 2, do not get a parrot in the hope that this parrot will talk, because you're going to be up for a disappointment. So yes, some parrot, they have better talking ability. But I'm going to give you a really good example. These cute videos of Indian ringnecks talking. Yes, they have that ability. They have the capacity. I have an Indian ringneck. She doesn't talk at all. She barely makes any sounds. So it doesn't mean because an African gray or an Indian ringneck or an Amazon or any of these parrots that you see talking very clearly, it doesn't mean that they will. And the other thing is sometimes talking, because they tend to learn talking in a heightened state. And heightened state of emotion, usually, not always, but usually would end up, if you don't know what you're doing, into aggression and biting. I don't think this is a relationship you want to have with your bird. So if you're looking to get a parrot just to have a parrot that talks, don't get one, because that would be a big mistake. Now, my next step is going to be a little bit controversial because I don't think that everybody agrees with me, but I will say it. Do not get a beginner bird. I personally don't think that there is such thing as a beginner bird unless you are willing to get multiple birds. So my tip would be get the bird that you want, because I don't think that majority of people are going to end up with 4 birds just like me. You're probably going to have just one, right? So get the one that you want. Do your research. Get the bird that fits best your lifestyle and your personality, and that you're going to be able to have an amazing relationship with. I'm going to give you a very good example about this is that everybody would say, well, a budgie is a very good beginner bird because it doesn't really bite hard. You can do whatever you want with it, really, or whatever. It's not really difficult. I find that I hear beginner birds a lot with smaller birds because, yeah, I guess they don't get really aggressive. They don't have any aggressivity, or they don't have any biting issues. Or if they do, then they don't really bite that much. But I think it is a mistake. I love my budgies, don't get me wrong, but I kind of fell into this trap of being beginner bird, although my first budgie was kind of impulse, but it was an impulsive purchase. But I want to say that I'm way more into medium-sized bird, like my Indian ringneck. I love my conure, but my conure would be on the smaller scale. Knowing now what I like about birds and parrots, and I kind of knew it as soon as I started doing more research about parrots, because after my budgies, I wanted to get something a little bit bigger. Doing my research, I knew without having one that I would prefer probably a medium bird. So do your research and get the bird that you want. There's no such thing as beginner bird. Just learn how to deal with it. My fourth tip for you is get the biggest cage you can possibly get, the biggest cage that you can afford financially and space wise. My 3 cages are all the same size. So they are 23 inches wide by 22 inches deep, and they're 35 inches high. So they're actually higher than this, but the space that the bird has is 34 by 22 by 35. I like this size of cage. It works well for me. Both of my budgies are in there and they're flying together in the cage. They can have plenty of exercise. And if they don't want to be side by side, they can be in their corner and they have enough space. For my conure, she can fly in her cage as well from purchase to purchase, so she can get some good exercise. I have enough space to put enough enrichment and toys and all of this. So I love it. For my Indian ringneck right now, with the space that I have, it's what I can afford. I would like to have something bigger. She can flap her wings, but she cannot fly from one perch to the other one. The cage is not big enough. Indian ringnecks, they're not super big, but their wingspan is quite large. So she can't fly. But this is something that I'm going to be working on because I would really like to upgrade that. I just need a little bit more space. I need to change things up a little bit in my home. But that's in the plan right now. So once it's updated, I will let you know. So what I'm saying really, again, is get the biggest cage you can afford financially, but the biggest cage you can afford in your space as well. Quick little thing that I forgot to say about cages is if you're thinking of getting your bird pretty much outside of the cage all the time and get a cage only for sleeping purposes, that's a different story. It doesn't have to be as big. Personally, my birds can't be out all the time because I'm working outside. I don't work in the house and they don't all get along. So it would be absolutely unsafe to have them all. Sorry, this is moving a lot, but I'm going to do this quick. It would be really unsafe to have them all outside together while I'm at work. So they have to be caged while I'm not home. Hence the reason why I would like to have a bigger cage for Lucy. Okay, let's get back to it. Now, my last tip is not everybody will agree with me, but I'll explain why I truly believe in that. So my last tip is you need to prepare how you're going to interact with your bird the first day. There's a lot of people out there that will say you need to let your bird settle in a quiet space. There's different theory around this, but basically the overall idea is to leave your bird alone for a few days until they settle. I disagree with this. I think you should interact the first day with your bird. But that will look differently depending on the type of bird, the history of the bird. Is it a baby? Is it an adult? Is your bird tame? Is it a rescue parrot? It's going to vary. And why I'm saying this is, well, I'm talking about my own experience here. Okay. When I first got baby Blue, my first budgie, he was an untamed budgie, little baby from the pet store, impulsive purchase, knew nothing about birds, starting looking all over Google, YouTube, whatever. And the first thing that I saw, and I stopped there with my research, was you need to let your bird settle. And then they even said they need to be surrounded by walls, not in the middle of the room, and higher than yourself so that they're not scared, whatever. So this is exactly what I did. It took me a very long time to be able to approach baby Blue, a very long time. Now, when I first got Tit Fluff, which was also a baby untamed budgie from the pet store, I had a little bit more knowledge, so I didn't quite do the same thing, but I didn't really interact with her either the very first day. Like I had no plan. But I didn't isolate her as much as baby Blue. Like she wasn't high, surrounded by walls and whatever. Like, it was different. I've been able to approach her a little bit faster, but it wasn't quite, it wasn't amazing. Now, Olive, my black-capped conure, total different story. She was tame, baby, hen-fed, whatever, little thing. She got home in her cage for maybe like an hour because it was a long drive. Like I drove, I think, 3 hours to come back home with her. So it was like a 2 to 3 hour drive with her in the car. So it was a long drive. I let her settle, but just for like an hour, I want to say. I took her from the cage right away. Like she cuddled right away. But again, it was a baby and she was used to be like with people. So that was very different. And I wanted to have her socialize with everybody, in the household as well. So that's another thing that will change how you will interact with your bird the first day. Do you want your bird to be a social bird to interact with everybody in the family and to like everybody in the family? Do you want your bird to be a one-person bird, which is going to be only you? Or do you want your bird to just, casually just choose their favorite person? Like that will change also your plan. But then when I had Lucy was very different. Lucy, I had way more knowledge and I knew I had a plan. I knew exactly what I would be doing with her. Lucy was 7 years old when I got her last year, untamed, not to be handled by what the breeder told me. He, in front of me, took her from a box with a net and dumped her in another box, which was the travel box, because he didn't want me to put her in a travel carrier, like a bird carrier. So yeah, that says a lot, right? So I knew that I was starting from scratch with her and I wanted to interact in a positive way right away. So my first thought was to give her a treat when she's in her cage to see how well she can take the treat out of my hand and how scared she is actually of humans. I had to find a treat first that was working for her, because when I saw her bag of food was basically a bag of treats, but there was no pine nuts in there. So with pine, and she loved pine nuts, so that was great for me. She was really scared to take the pine nut of my hand, but it was very reinforcing from her. And then when I saw that she took it, I said, okay, I'm going to start to do some target in her cage through the bars. And I was teaching her to come gently at the same time. So I actually started training with her on day one and build from that. My theory about this, and I'm telling you, it works because it worked with Lucy, and I know it worked for other people as well, is that when you get a bird, that bird has no history with you, none. So if you start your journey with that parrot, that bird, on a positive note, and you build on that, you're gonna bank positive. So if you make a mistake or you push too hard at some point, you're going to have a bank of trust already. So you're not going to lose completely the bird's trust. So, and again, because you have no history, that bird is in a new environment, new people. They don't know what to expect. My conure is calling me. I'm going to play with her after some training. But basically, yeah, that bird, that parrot has no history with you. They don't know what to expect at all. And then when the first interaction, even if it's the same day, it's a positive interaction, this is going to break the cycle of negative interaction, right? This is going to break that cycle. This is going to be, oh, okay, here it's different. Oh, there. I mean, she was in fight or flight mode for quite a bit, but once I banked a few interactive, a few positive interaction, things changed, moving very, very quickly with her, very quickly. So, in my opinion, this is something very important. You have to plan how you're going to spend the first day with your bird, depending on what your intention is with that bird. What are your goals? The history of that parrot as well will make a difference on how you're going to do it. And if you're not sure how to do it, do your research, ask questions, ask for consultation with parrot trainers or behavior specialists. Ask here in the video if you don't know, and I can give you an answer. But really, I think it's a very, very important. The day one will make a huge difference in the relationship you're going to have in your bird. I'm not saying if you make a mistake on day one that it's going to ruin your relationship. I'm not saying this, but it might take a little bit longer to build that relationship with your parrot. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you soon.